Peterson is well known in the crafting world for her incredible work in friendly plastic and polymer clay. Recently, Linda launched Craft Tech University, yay, Craft Tech, where she teaches students from all over the world in a cool new format of live webcam that's the coolest way to learn online. Today, Linda is sharing a cool, friendly plastic pendant project. I'm delighted to welcome Linda Peterson. Hi, Linda.
Hi, Tiffany. Hi, everyone out there. And thanks for the little Craft Tech U little plug. You know what? I think that we need to talk to Heidi to get her to teach classes on those gorgeous soda pop can pendants. Don't you think? I think you should post that in the room and cheer Heidi on so that we can get her to become a Craft Tech U instructor. Anyway, today, yes, I'm sharing a friendly plastic project, and this one is kind of along the recycling theme, I guess you could say, because if you've done any friendly plastic projects in the past, you're probably gathering lots of little bits and pieces of the plastic, and you're probably collecting quite a bag. So before you throw that bag out, I want to show you just a real quick little project of something that you can do with those little bits and pieces. So Tiffany, if you would put up the picture of the project that we're going to do today. There you go. And I'm going to actually reset my camera. Okay, let me move it. There we go. So you're only going to need some basic supplies. And I have a marble here. This is one of those marbles that you get from the floral department. You know, you put them at the bottom of glass jars. And hang on here, I'm going to set my timer. I forgot to set my timer. There we go. Okay, so you need a marble. You're going to need some bits and pieces of friendly plastic. I'll put those over here. And when I mean about bits and pieces, these are just pieces that are left over. You could have stamped on them. You could have inked on them, or they can just simply be scrap pieces in kind of irregular shapes. And then you're going to need a pair of scissors, and I like to use the tonic scissors because if you're going to cut friendly plastic with scissors, these are the best ones to cut with. Let me adjust this just a little bit more. There you go. And I'm working on a Silpat sheet. This is a non-stick surface. It's made for baking. You can also use a craft sheet, but you want to make sure that the surface that you're working on isn't going to be melted by the heat because we're going to be using a heat gun. So what I'm going to do is just off of a scrap of friendly plastic, you're going to cut a long triangle with the scissors. And I'm just going to cut this one for you just so you can see how easy it cuts with these scissors. And the triangle is it's about 1.5 inches wide because it's the width of the friendly plastic. And this is going to become the base of our, we're actually going to make a palm tree. And it's a little long, so I'm going to cut it off at the bottom here. And we're going to be working with hot and cold techniques. So the first thing that I'm going to do, friendly plastic melts and gets real pliable when it gets hot. So I'm going to melt the base of my palm tree first. It only takes a couple seconds. I'm using the heat tool because this tool puts out a lot of heat but not a lot of air. And you'll know that it's ready to go when you can take and make an indentation in the plastic. So it's getting there. You also see the sides kind of round out a little bit. Kind of hard to see there, but you'll notice it when you're doing this for yourself at home. And okay, so you can see how I made the indentations. That's kind of how you know it's ready to go. Let me add a little bit more heat to the top. What I want to do is I want to melt the base because I'm going to actually add the leaves that have not been heated, and that way they'll stick. So warm plastic will stick to cold plastic, and warm plastic will also stick to warm plastic. So what I did is I took some of this plastic here. This is just a leftover piece that I had stamped on, and I cut out some sort of like palm tree shapes. I've got 4 of them. And again, this, you know, I know palm trees tend to be more green, but you can use any kind of scraps, and I thought it'd be fun to use some that had a little stamp pattern on them. So I'm just going to arrange them with my needle tool. because the friendly plastic kind of rounds out when it gets hot, you don't have to be just super duper concerned that your shapes aren't perfect, because I'll show you in just a second how we can reshape those. But set those down, and okay, so now they're arranged. You kind of see the shape that I'm going for. Let's put some more heat to it. The marbles that come from the craft store, they come in a lot of different shapes. You can get the round ones, you can get some that are colored. So have fun with this. What I want to show you is that you can kind of manipulate this around a little bit and make the leaves look a little bit more leafy. See how I can move that around? And I'm moving it around with my needle tool, not my fingers, because sometimes the plastic will stick to your fingers, but you can shape and you can soften. And I can come back in. I'm going to turn this upside down here so that I can work on it. So you can kind of give it some texture and bring out some of the shape of the palm tree. Okay, so you're going to keep doing this until you get it to look the way you want. And then you're going to let this cool on its own. It's real important to let this one cool on its own and not actually douse it in water, because when you douse it in water, it would buckle. It would kind of get distorted. So we're going to let this one cool on its own. I've got a different one that I made the other night, already finished. So let me set this one to the side. Let me bring my marble back in here. And what you'll do after you have it, here's the one that looks a little different. I actually added on this one, I added some little green at the bottom to make it look like it was, you know, had some grass growing up around it. You'll actually put it back onto the marble, and you can see how it doesn't lay flat. This one got a little bit distorted with my heat there. But you'll come back in just for a couple seconds and heat that up just enough to where that slumps down and takes the shape of your marble. All right, so I won't do that, but you'll see it, and I mean literally just a couple of seconds, because if you let it get too much heat, it will actually melt right off your marble. Next thing you're going to do is you're going to let this cool. Once this is cool, you're going to pop it off again, and then I go back in with some kind of adhesive, whether that's diamond glaze or glossy accents, and I put a very light coat of adhesive on my glass marble, and then I put my motif down over the adhesive, and I let that dry. After that's done, then I go ahead with the glossy accents or the diamond glaze, and I put a couple of really thin clear coats over the top, and that helps seal it to the glass marble like this one is here. And you can see while it was hot, I added some little rhinestones in there, some little Swarovski crystals, just to kind of give it a little boost, and it also kind of hid an ugly part that was right there. Then next, what you'll do is you need to put it onto a bale. So the bales that I use are just those glue-on bales. And I glued it on with some E6000 glue, let that dry, and then just string it onto your leather cording. And while we were working, I'll show you a couple of the other ones that I did here. Here's one that I did of a little sea turtle I thought was kind of fun. And then different theme, here's one with some little cherries. All right. So pretty easy, real quick to make gifts. Really the only time that you have is the time that it takes to cool down and the time that it takes for the glue to dry. So